Hey, hey. Oh my gosh, look who's in the house. This way. Look who's in the
Yay.
house. Hi, Lori. Oh
Hi,
my
Janice. How are
gosh.
you?
Good, good. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. Kathy's here already. Thank you, Kathy. Woo-hoo. Thanks for being here. This is going to be such a great podcast, you guys. We are doing the pre-podding, and then we were chatting before, got Lori going. She knows about the mic issue that actually StreamYard is having, you guys. So hopefully she said she'll just keep talking. But we're going to talk about this before we start talking. Let me just show you this. I got it. You guys should get it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Me and Kevin read through it all. What's going to come up? My favorite part.
Oh, nice.
Really. My favorite part. Wait, over here. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me just put this here.
Oh, we lost her. Oh, of course. You can't move, right? Once you
I
start,
can't
there you
even
go.
look.
You're
Can
back.
you hear
There
me
you are.
now?
You're back. Yep, you're back. You're back.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. All right. Okay. So, David's here. Hey, you guys. Lori doesn't know where you're from. Put in the chat where you're from. Let's get the chat going. We're going to do the pre-potting. Most of you guys know, some of you don't. My name's Janice Sullivan. I license my images, and now I'm getting you guys to actually capture and connect with your clients. It's more about a business, but passion to profit. And Lori caught my eyes. Huh, Lori? We were talking on Twitter. We both really don't hang out there. This is meant to be, Lori, because I see Lori. She's talking about her polar opposites. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful book. And it wasn't even published yet. And I'm like, can you be on my podcast? And she said, yeah.
Of course. Of course.
Oh, you know what's weird? I can hear you. Is there an echo, Lori, for me?
I don't know.
Okay. So hi, this is Scott from South Carolina. He hangs out a lot.
Cool.
So welcome. Some of you guys are here. I see people up there, but say hi. Say hi to Lori. Lori has made this beautiful book. Lori, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick intro. And for some reason, you're coming through this. Oh, it's live. As long as I can hear you, that's all that matters. Can you guys hear Lori okay?
Technology is always fun.
Right?
Yep.
David. All right. So,
Cool.
okay. So Lori, we're gonna, I want you guys to tell me in the chat if you can hear Lori okay, because I can hear, but I want to make sure you guys can hear. I'm going to talk about Lori. She's very talented. I've known Lori for a long time. She's now published this beautiful book that, okay, they say
Cool.
they can hear you.
All right.
Perfect. It's called Polar Opposites, and it really is stunning, Lori. My husband and I, again, I will say this, she's heard this before, but you guys haven't. We sat down and we were so engulfed in the imagery that she put into this beautiful book, and the words that she also says. That some of that was even, I was like, really, some new stuff, some feelings that she had in each of the sections. I'll let her talk a little bit more about this. But I really, towards the end, we'll share with you where you should get it. I highly recommend any photographer or person that just wants some inspiration about our world, from the polar, up at the top and down at the bottom. And she's done such a beautiful job putting them all together. You're welcome. Polar Opposite is actually, it really is mesmerizing. I just couldn't put it down. It was just so visually and storytelling beautiful.
Thank you.
Man, I wanted to ask you first. Hey, Eugenie's here. She's from Canada.
Awesome.
Welcome. She is pretty, she's very, she's a photographer that has a lot of artistics, and she would love this because of the way you pieced your imagery together in the book. But I do want to share with photographers, or most of my people that are here are photographers.
Right.
So let us know in your life where your journey, because this way I want to know how you began your photography to leading. We were talking a little bit about how you're helping, and then getting into publishing?
So basically, I've had a camera since I was 10 years old, and I'm 61. So I started with a Kodak Instamatic X15, that I took everywhere with me. Um, I kind of always have been artistic in some way or creative. I took ballet for most half my life about. At one point, I've been half my life gone from it too. But from a creativity standpoint, that was always there. I took art classes in school. I never really pursued the art side of things, and that's something that, I mean, same with photography. You have to keep doing it. I can't draw anymore to save my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you learn all those things in art that um, pertain to photography as well. Perspective, leading lines. I mean, color theory, all that stuff goes into photography. And I, this is a side note, but I kind of feel like in now people don't learn that stuff anymore when they get into photography. They get a
Yeah.
camera and they're like, oh, we can go take pictures. But the art part of it is kind of lost unless you pursue that. So I grew up with a camera. My mom kind of always had a camera. I have bookshelves full of photo albums. I have Rubbermaid tubs full of photos from my mom, from myself. And we traveled. We used to go camping every weekend. Our family vacations were spent road trips. I went to like, by the time I was 16, I'd been to 36 out of the 50 states.
Oh, wow. That's
It's
so
kind of
cool.
crazy. It's maybe not so unheard of now, but you
Yeah.
know, so I've always had that, wandering spirit, trying to look for new things and find new things. And photography goes hand in hand with that very easily. So when I started working when I was 16, my very first paycheck went to pay for a Minolta XG1 35 millimeter SLR. And my second paycheck went to buy plane tickets.
Oh, really?
So that pretty much sums up my life. Is photography and travel are both passions of mine, and they always have been. And just taking it further, it's one of those things where everybody's like, "Oh, you should do something with that."
Uh,
But what? I mean,
yeah.
in those days, it was all film, making
Yeah.
myself sound really old, but it was all film, and it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
you had to submit to magazines or submit to publications or whatever.
Hmm.
And I never felt like my work was good enough for that. Was it my dream to be a National Geographic, travel the world? That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I never, I did the corporate jobs and all that until 7, 8 years ago when I kind of was like done. And my husband is very supportive of what I do.
Hmm.
And we're like, can make this work, you know? And am I successful? It depends on your definition of what success is. And my definition of success is doing what I want when I want, and then I'm happy doing it. And
Hmm.
it has never been about money for me, thankfully,
Yeah.
because I could probably make more than I do doing this, but I don't push it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my choice. That's how I kind of operate. So
Right. Right. So yeah, the things that you're saying right now too really strict. I mean, you and I are very much alike, so
mhm.
I can totally relate. And I know a lot of photographers out there probably can relate too, because most of them are landscape and macro photographers. But um, I think that one of the things that I hit on when you were talking right now was the art scene, and I believe honestly that it is a definitely something that as creators should really think about as we photograph. And I mean, like I could see right now how you were talking a little bit about you didn't think that your work was good enough, and
Right.
I believe a lot of us feel that for sure.
Yeah, definitely still feel that way.
Yeah, I don't
That
think we
doesn't
ever.
that doesn't go away.
Yeah, right.
No.
Otherwise, you're really cocky.
Yes.
It's like, oh, yeah, right. You're the Almighty, not to everyone,
We
but
don't
one
need
of
another ego in the industry.
right, right. So true. But the thing too that I always believe in is that it's okay because as long as I'm helping others. So one of the things that
Yes.
you had said too that we haven't touched on is your website has a lot of where you do mentorship, you do a lot of things for others.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the molding of your creation and getting into the mentorship and helping others is great. But what made you decide on this book? What made you say, I think I'm going to publish?
You
I mean,
know,
it's
I
great.
don't, I'm trying to think of what, I guess, as you go through images, and I kept finding these images, and it struck me as interesting that I had images that were so similar from both um, trips.
Mhm.
I'm in a mentorship community with a very long time mentor of mine, and he has a system where you go through, you make a like declaration of what you want to do, and you take it step by step. And it's very helpful to get you from point A to point B and trying to finish a project or to learn something in Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, the more I've wanted to do a book for quite a while. But I never, I thought it would be more architectural because that's one of my big, areas is architecture. But the
Mhm.
more I kept looking through, for whatever reason, I was going through images from these trips for some other project, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. So I started pulling the images and started just doing that, and then it just became, I'm going to make a book. And then I had huge grand plans for this book, way bigger than my budget could let me do, because I wanted to do like a big opening, like gallery show with a book release,
Uh-huh.
but that's, framing pictures and stuff
Yeah.
for a gallery is a lot of money, and I'm like, that's not in the budget. So
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. One of the questions that I had here was the challenges. Let's see, wait, launching a book and the approach. So I've done like blurb books and stuff like
right,
that.
right.
And honestly, when I did it, I mean, I was just like, it was very expensive and I really
Mhm.
didn't know what I was doing. Did you get help on doing this? How did you like,
Somewhat. So I started out because what I really wanted to find somebody to publish it so that I
mhm,
didn't have to do a lot of that stuff on my
yeah,
own.
yeah,
I don't know the publishing industry,
yep.
but I approached maybe 20 different publishers from all over, UK, Canada, the States. But it's kind of a funny, I don't know, the book is like in between places where, it's not Canadian landscapes, it's not the West Coast landscapes, it's not, it's kind of something that just didn't fit in a lot of places. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do this myself. My background is in marketing. I was in marketing most of my corporate life, so I have a little bit of an idea of what you should do. It doesn't mean I always do it, but because I hate doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Um, but I researched publishers, then I started looking for printers. Well, printing in the US is crazy expensive. And I
Oh,
really, really wanted to have it printed in the US, but
mhm.
it was too much money, and I would have had to sell the book for like over $100. Well, it's
Wow,
a nice
really?
book, but it's
Yeah.
not worth $100. I mean, I wouldn't pay $100 for it. So then
But that's but isn't that because you have to we were talking sorry, I remember it's because you have to print a lot to make it cheaper, correct?
right. So the printer that I ended up with, my choice was 100 or 250 books. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I don't even think I can sell 100 books. So 250 is out of the question. I'm going to have books in my basement for the rest of my life, you know? So I got 100. I ended up finding on Reddit, which I never use, but I'm like, my husband calls me research girl because I'm very good at putting the right words in search engines to find what I need. I came across a thread on Reddit that included information about a print broker who operates out of California, and they work with the overseas printers.
Oh,
So it was awesome. They're called Ken the Book Printer, and they're so helpful. Um, I used Affinity Publishing to do the layout myself, so I did all the layout. I did all the design, if you will.
mhm.
I have a little bit of background in that. it's not hard to put pictures on a page, right? I mean, they're full size pictures on a page.
Yeah.
It's not like you're doing a whole lot of layout. So they worked with me. They give me the like a template so that you know your bleed lines
Mm-hmm.
and again, those are all things that I knew from my previous job, for printing. So, I mean, yeah, like it's not hard to put two pictures on on pages, for layout, but you have to know where the bleed line is and what a gutter is and where the cutoff is for the cover but they were very helpful with all of that. And then they deal with all the customs and all the brokerage and all that. So it's delivered to my doorstep for the price. I didn't have to deal with any of the rest of that stuff. It was awesome to find them, and they were
Yeah,
awesome to work with. Yeah.
that sounds really good. When you were saying publishing, David, I'm going to give real quick. I'm going to give her website out in a little bit. He had mentioned, and hi, Carolyn. So you had mentioned. So when you said publishing, I like you. So you said find a publisher. So you want to find a publisher that's within your country? Is that how it works? I didn't really understand.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, there's so many publishers out there, and many of them are very. They have their own like lane, if you will, because I can't think of the word that it actually is. So there's certain publishers who publish books like landscape. It's just the same as the regular book industry, right? So there's people who publish children's books. There's people who publish true crime books. There's people who publish, the romance books, whatever. So same with the photography books. There's publishers who do different types of things, and maybe I just didn't find the right one, But the thing is now, I mean, it might be easier to find somebody because I actually have a book I could send them instead of a PDF or a description. So that's a possibility down the road.
Ooh, we might have to have you on again.
I don't. We'll see. I have not decided what I'm doing yet. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have to tell them the good news. She was saying that she's almost running out already of her.
Yeah,
books.
I have 20 books left, and I have an open house tomorrow locally. So I took them. I've got them so that they go on back order on my site because I want to make sure I have 20 books at the opening, the open house tomorrow, just in case they all sell out. But it blows my mind. I'm so overwhelmed, and I'm just, it's really kind of disbelief for me that I even sold that many. It's crazy.
I know she says that, you guys. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, this book is absolutely amazing. And not only just because, first of all, Lauri, I did mention this a little bit. I don't think I'll ever be able to touch the North and South Pole, but that's not even really, I mean, I got attracted by your cover, obviously. And I was like, oh, she showed a picture of this, and I don't know, I'm not doing justice of it. But when I saw your Twitter post, and I'm like, polar opposites. Oh my gosh, this woman has done this. That is
that is part of it. You're right. That is part of it. It's something that not a lot of people get to do. I'm like so unbelievably fortunate that I had these opportunities, basically like put in my lap. I'm the kind of person who doesn't say no to stuff like that, no matter what. When I was younger and on my own, I would like fly off to London for a weekend just because a airfare deal came by, so cool. It's crazy. I obviously can't do that anymore because I have, a husband and other responsibilities.
Right.
But if I were still on my own, I would still be doing that kind of thing. It's just, I can't not do that stuff. So the trip to Antarctica, I found out about on a Monday and I left on a Saturday, like the following Saturday, like 5 days. Yeah. I emailed my husband. I'm like, I have this opportunity to go, but it leaves Saturday. He's like, why are you even asking me? I'm like, okay. Because he knows, he understands that that's who I am, So I understand that that's part of the appeal of the book too, is that these are places that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to see. So I from that aspect too, and my husband keeps reminding me of things like that. He's like, people don't, get to see this, or they don't, and I'm like, okay, you know.
And honestly, like, yeah, we don't get to see, but the way you put it together. So what she's done, you guys, is like she takes a composition that's from the North Pole and then the South Pole, and it kind of like almost the same, but quite differently. And you just, I just feel like I say, artistically, it just really hits your inner soul as you
You just
flip
gave
through the
me
pages. She
goosebumps.
gives you little blurbs inside there. I'm not going to show the whole book. You got to go buy it. But it's like the blurbs that she says about where she's been and the two different places, and then you get to feel the work. And that's one of my things that I always say. To have people feel the work, and obviously to be valued, to pay for something. And
Right.
I really appreciate, I paid, and I would never say something that's not true, that's if it's worth it or not, and it totally is worth it. So
Thank you. Thank
it's
you.
absolutely gorgeous. um it's funny that we're talking a little bit, because I did want to talk about the challenges of photography. Now I hear a lot of photographers, like, they don't want to take their passion to profit. And we're talking about your book and what you've done and how you published it. But did you, uh, you know, as you're photographing, this was your passion, and we do have a lot of people with their cell phones and the camera and the different things that and AI now. So I was curious on how you felt about. I mean, this is your camera. This is something we're buying. This is so in the creative world. Is How do you feel about, like, what you've done here compared to, say, other photographers, or the feelings, because a lot of photographers, like, I can't do this because everybody has a phone you
Well,
know
this is in some ways that's true, but in other ways, we're all individuals for one. We all see the world differently. Um, I don't take pictures of sunsets anymore or sunrises, right? Because everybody loves them. Same with flowers. Everybody loves them. But I'm like not going to try to sell stuff like that because there's people out there who do that way better than I do. Um, is it oversaturated, the market? I feel like yes and no. I mean, it's I feel like you can always find a way, right? As long as you're authentic and be yourself and be true to yourself, I think those are the things that come through. And that's what people connect with. And that's why people want to work with you or me, or people want to buy my book, or be mentored by me or by you. I think it's that connection. It kind of almost has nothing to do with the photography part of it. You're selling yourself.
Yeah.
Um, the problem is, and I don't know if it's a problem, but it's just, and you've heard this a million times, probably most of you, everybody's a photographer because we have a camera in our pocket. And but like I said earlier, people don't take the time to learn though. They get a camera, they don't learn their camera, they don't learn about art, they don't learn about composition or color theory or perspective or shapes, and those things are very important in art, and photography is art.
Mm-hmm.
Um but because we all can just, you know, get out of our pocket and take a quick photo, that doesn't technically make us a photographer. Um, and because everything is out there, right? We're posting everything every 5 minutes, you know. Um, that's the other side of it. I used to have someone ask me all the time how I was selling stuff, and it's appearances, right? People think I sell a lot of stuff, but in reality, I don't sell as
Mm-hmm.
much as I think, or people
Mm-hmm.
think. Um, and I'm like, you can't just, it's like, I always say the field of dreams, right? You can't just build it and they'll come. You have to do the work. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. We live in an age where it's like, oh, well, if it goes viral, well, great, but you can't guarantee that's going to happen, and you can't make that happen. So
Yeah.
you have to do the work. You have to. I called um like the local bookstore that is in the town that I grew up in and said, I have this book. Will you put it on your shelf? And they took 2 copies and paid me for the copies right away. He's like, oh, this will sell. And I'm like, okay. You know, I took one, I donated one to my local library. I contacted another library. I mean, and those aren't places where maybe nobody's going to buy it because of that, but at least somebody else is going to see it. and maybe somebody who appreciates photography or travel, and they might go further. If people like me, I get a book and I start looking up like where it was printed, who printed it, who did that. I'm like researching it.
Yeah.
Maybe they come and buy a print.
Yep.
But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I think that people don't do that part. They
You-
continually just post, or they don't want to be a business.
yeah. They say they do, but then
Right,
they
but they don't know
realize.
what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guilty of that. I don't technically call myself a business. I don't do things that I know I should be doing as a business, um, because I don't want to be hindered by that part of it. You had sent me a question too about the creativity
Balance.
versus the business
Yeah,
balance
let's go
stuff.
into that. I had
And
asked in the creative field.
yeah,
So let me ask you, in the creative field, like photography, it can be challenging. I wrote this down. It can be challenging to balance your artistic side with the business side. How do you manage to stay creative and inspired while
what
ensuring your work is on the business side, which is this?
I think for myself personally, the creative side drives me. I don't. I'm a horrible example of a photography business.
I don't agree. And I'm going to tell you why right now.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, Lauri, the reason why I don't agree is because you do the work. And so when we talk about our business, and I make money too, but I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah.
But another thing too is, like you're saying, you always keep that creativity going. But one thing that you do is you're very passionate to help others, and you do the work. I was listening to you. You're like, I called publishers. I
Yeah,
did
that's true.
this.
Okay.
I connected here. I did that. That is a good business person. You are an awesome rocking woman. And because we are humble with ourselves, and I'm
Yeah.
here to say, no, you are a great example, because you've always, okay, I'm going to say a little super secret. She had said, I don't know why people like they say they like the book, they're buying the book. She's shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, you give so much of herself. She gives so much of herself to her customers, to her clients, to the people she wants to connect to. I have to stop you on that one right now. I
Okay.
don't agree.
And you're gonna make me cry.
Because you're passionate.
I get
Passionate
that's and
profit. Passionate profit.
that's
That's why I'm saying you're the
what it is.
best person that I've had to start my podcast on. I was like, Lauri, thank you so much. But yeah, you're right. So the creative side, I think that what's happening, honestly, what I'm hearing too is that you have this passion to travel and photograph.
Right.
But I'm also hearing too that I don't think you recognize that you are doing the business, because it is your your passion to profit. Profit is valuable, you guys, and this is valuable. If you got it for free, you wouldn't even care. You'd be like, oh, that's nice. When you pay for something,
That's
that's
true.
why I
That's
was
true.
telling Lauri, it's good that you did this, because I failed, and I sold a couple blurb books, but I didn't do the business side of really researching when I did my book. And you have totally rocked
Well,
it.
and I think that it's because I started out with this grand idea. I had this grand plan, and I wanted to do a gallery show with the book release, and I wanted to take like a portion of the profits and donate to Polar Research or whatever. But unfortunately, I had to drop that part because there are no profits right now. I mean, well, I still donate, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not. I keep saying it's a passion project and not a profit project in this case, but it's the first time I've done it. If I do
Mhm.
another printing, I don't have the initial costs that I had. I don't have the setup fees. I don't have some of the stuff, that I had to pay for this time. I won't have those. So there will be more room for profit next time if there is another printing.
Oh my gosh, I
So,
hope you do that, because I know it's because, like you're saying too, I love what you said. You wanted to donate. So I think that's also something as entrepreneurs should really think about too, is that when you do something like this, it's not about you. It's about what you can do
Yeah.
with what you have made. And knowing that you want to donate to Polar, I read in the book, about there's some issues with the fishing, and in the matter of fact, my daughter gave me a plastic, they pull the plastic from the
Right,
ocean.
right.
And so I should have wore that today, darn it. But she does, we're very, nature family. And
Environmental,
so we're
yeah.
trying, to help preserve our world. And that's something that I feel that's why I say I hope you do continue and move forward, because we were talking a little bit too, just saying how when you start something, you have to test it out, and you didn't know that it was going to be successful. You didn't even think
Right.
you were going to have anybody buying it. And
Right.
now
But I'm the kind of person who just does stuff anyway. Like, I mean, seriously, because
good.
how do you know? I mean, you've done, I've followed you for a long time, right? We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
try things for a while. And if
Yeah.
they work, great, you keep doing them. If they don't, then you stop doing them and you do something else. Or
Yeah.
if you try something and you absolutely hate it, then you
Yep.
stop doing that. And then you find something else that you love to do. And
Yep.
that's part of it. Like, I don't enjoy the, certain things, so I don't do them.
Yes.
And that's part of staying true to yourself, which comes through in your work, whether it's a book or a print or,
Yeah.
a podcast or whatever it is.
Yes.
You
So
staying
true.
true to yourself.
Yes. So true. And such great words, Lauri. I mean, it's so true. And if you are if you're going to be phony and just want to be like, oh, it's all about my money, and then
Right.
the passion won't be there
Right.
for it. But
It shows. I think it shows. I mean, I think it shows even on people's like social media posts. You can tell those
yeah,
sorts of things.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, sometimes things come out and you're like, oops, I wish I could take that away
Yeah.
or whatever. But you know what? It's okay as long as
Yep.
you hit the people that you truly love. So you're going to have an opening tomorrow? Where's that going to be? And anybody who's
if you're local, I know Carolyn is local.
Wallace.
It's in East Dundee, Illinois, and it's at this really cool cafe, and it's a cafe wine bar type place.
Oh,
And
fun.
it's like the place where they just moved into a bigger facility about 6 months ago, and it's perfect for this kind of a thing. And it's where I go. So Saturdays and Sundays, a lot of times I'll go out with my camera and just wander in a forest preserve or whatever. Sunday mornings are usually like my time.
Yeah.
So I'll go out, and when I'm done, I usually stop in there and have breakfast or lunch or, whatever. And so it turns out that it's just like the perfect place for this. There'll be like a charcuterie table, and it's just people hanging out, and
That's what I was going to say too. Partners and collaboration. So this is like a collaboration that you're working with somebody, just getting out. That's what I was going to ask you next. Like, what different when it comes to sharing books and publishing and stuff like that? What do you do? And it sounds like you're going into around your location. Is there anything else that you can offer anybody?
And it's very interesting, that question for me, because how many years ago? 2010. I don't remember when I took this course. A photographer that I really admired in Chicago, I went and did a workshop because I had just gotten a DSLR, like I just got a digital, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Right?
I did the same thing.
I know film inside and out, and I can still shoot my 35 millimeter film camera, but all these buttons and all these options was like, I put it on auto, I shot JPEG, and that was it. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, obviously, there's too much here for this.
Yeah.
But anyway, he always said, start local. And at the time, I was like, I didn't want to start local, because I was like, I have all these people that I know all over the world. Not all over the world, but I traveled a lot when I worked for companies, so I knew people in a lot of places. And I thought, this is going to sound egotistical, but I've always felt like I was meant for something bigger. And I don't mean that in a egotistical way, but I just, in a way that I'm like, okay, I'm stuck here. I need to be further, somewhere else, somewhere bigger, something else I should be doing that could be more. So I kind of I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to local restaurants and see if they if they need photos of their food. And Carolyn, it's the East Side Cafe in Dundee on Barrington Road, I think. There's an event on my Facebook page you can find, or I'll link you it.
Is it on your website? Because I was going to put your website.
Oh, it isn't. It's not on my website. It's just a Facebook event. I didn't
okay.
I sent out a couple emails with it and stuff. But so he was always like, start local. And I get that. I've seen people do it. I see people that I know do that very well. But I just didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do. So I didn't, other than photographing bicycle races. My brother was a cycling person. He still is. For probably 15 years, I've been photographing bike races of some sort. And that's led to, this past year, I always volunteer. They never paid me. This year, they actually paid me to take pictures of trails for 5 of the parks and some races and whatever. So those are the kind of things too. Volunteering isn't a bad thing, and it helps you build relationships with people in your community. And just to say, Carolyn, that's in the chat there, she does a lot. She does a lot with the local city that we live in. Her and I live in the same town.
Oh, wow.
So when you make those relationships and connections, she works with them on a lot of events and things. So, that's the kind of stuff, if that's what you want to do, that can get you started on building your business and finding clients, depending on what you do. That was the other part for me that I always found difficult, is because my stuff I consider fine art. I'm not doing portraits. I'm not doing weddings. Fine art is a whole different animal to sell.
It is, for sure. And that's why I wanted to start this podcast, because there's so much wedding and portraiture and stuff. And I'm like, really? There's no places for landscape? Well, they do talk about how to teach. It's hard to, like, I'm sharing some of the book, but we're really talking more this podcast so people can listen and be inspired on what you're doing and how to, see your work in a book, which is amazing. I mean, I saw my book, but I just feel like it's just so nice to be able to take it to others and the other people can really enjoy what you've done. Let me see. I have another question, and then I'll see. You guys, if you have any questions for Lauri, start putting them in the chat and I'll get them ready. But I wanted to ask you about, let me see if I've missed anything, because I want to make sure, because I write myself notes because I forget everything.
Yeah, me too. I get it.
So so for aspiring photographers or creatives who are hoping to turn their passion into a type of business like this, like I say, we're not talking about millions. We're talking about taking passion to profit, be valued. What key pieces, I get, you've touched on it a lot, and I think I know the answer, but tell them the key pieces and advice that you would offer them, especially when you're doing this publishing, what you've done right here, to get them motivated to that step.
First of all, have the passion and know what your passion is, which goes along with knowing yourself. I think learning everything that you need to know to do whatever it is you need to do, right? I didn't know anything about publishing, so I had to do a lot of research. I had to do the work. If you are trying to start a portrait business, or you think you want to start a portrait business, watch videos, learn, take classes. But also I find, and we touch on this too, learn how to use your camera. I mean, does it work on auto for me? I still shoot things on auto, to be honest with you. Not all the time. It depends on what I'm doing. But I've learned what I can use auto with and what I can't. You need to learn how to use your camera and what happens if you move this button and change that. Even if it's your phone, if you're using your phone, there's tons of settings and things on your phones. Learn how to use it and figure out what it can do for you to get you what you want in an image. Right. So, and business, if you want to go into business, learn how to operate a business, learn what expenses are and what profits are and what you have to do to pay taxes. and
Mhm.
all that boring stuff that goes into it, because
It's the one side and the other side
it's
of the
like,
brain.
right, because that's a huge part of things. Like
Yeah.
in the past, well, I did art fairs for like 4 years, and
Oh,
I never like charged extra sales tax. I'm like, oh, it's just included in the price. I couldn't be bothered. Again,
yeah.
this is me and my business
Yeah.
way of
Yeah.
doing things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, but with the book, I've set it up through my website. The WooCommerce automatically puts, like, you can automatically put in your state and where you're at, automatically does the tax. I'm like, cool. You know, you have to learn all those things to make the business work. You know, you can take the most amazing photos of people or weddings or landscapes or whatever in the world, but if you don't know how to run a business, it's not going to work.
So let me ask you this. This is great because you mentioned WooCommerce. So when you decided to do this, did you just said some people don't? I mean, I know what it all is, but maybe some people
Right.
don't understand about Woo. How? So you just push them to your website and then they go in. And was that something complicated that you had to figure out?
Not really. WooCommerce is a plugin. I use WordPress for my website. You can
.org,
use,
right?
yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
don't even know. I always have to
I
go
don't know
look
if
because
you could use
I never
Woos.com, but I'm
remember.
not
I don't
sure.
think you can. I think so.
Hmm.
And I've had it for so long that,
Yeah,
um,
me too. Well, now I'm different, but I used
but
to.
there's so many options.
Hmm. Hmm.
Squarespace and some of the like Zenfolio and SmugMug allow you to do things like that too.
Hmm.
But I'm comfortable with WordPress because I've been doing it for so long. And to try to change now, I'm like, all that content to flip it over to another. I'm like, no,
Yeah, no,
I'll just
no.
keep this. So WooCommerce is a plugin that allows you to sell on your site. You can put products. Um, I have, I use a, software or whatever you want to call it called Imagely, which allows me to sell prints. And I
Oh,
was
okay.
using that to also sell my mentorships and tours. It isn't
Is that on your
ideal.
website too? Is that how you think?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What
So
is it
that's
called?
how Imagely. It's a
Oh,
galleries
oh, I
uh
know. Yeah,
Imagely. I think it's called something. It has another word too, but
I remember.
um so I was like I use that to sell prints, but then I also started using it to sell my mentoring and my um tours. It wasn't
Oh, okay.
perfect. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the way it really should be set up, but I'm like, I can make this work.
Yeah.
But now this is totally different. So I couldn't really it didn't make sense for me to do that. So then I started looking into WooCommerce, and that's one of the most popular plugins for WordPress to sell
Right.
products.
That
And
was super easy for me.
it is pretty, the only thing that I struggled with was the shipping zones and the
Oh,
shipping. So there's like shipping zones and the shipping location, whatever. There's like 2 or 3 different things. And
uh,
I'm like, it didn't click in my head. I finally got it. You look
yeah.
things up and how do I do this? And, you know,
That's what you got to do.
thank
Yep.
God for the like internet, so you can
Yeah,
find
right. We have so much.
there's so much, yes, there's so much out there that will help you figure stuff out.
Yeah,
Um,
and I have to say too is that I love that she gives little goodies on top of
ah,
it and coupon. No, it's so good because some people will just send stuff. I'm always telling my clients, you got to give more than just
yeah,
the
yeah,
book.
yeah. And I
And
mean,
just really,
the bookmark is like, pennies, not pennies, but it's not that expensive to do that.
and
Right.
it makes a difference. Oh, look, it won't show Lori.
It's too bright.
It shows
Yeah.
her website, but it's getting blown out. But oh my gosh, look at the little penguin. So cute.
And everybody loves penguins. So,
Right?
you know,
That was so smart. I love it. And then she signed. Do you sign all the books? Or
I
did you
have
sign?
signed all of them. Some of
You're awesome.
them,
Oh, I thought it was special.
some of them have personal notes in them, depending on who it was. But
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
thank
so
you.
beautiful.
Thanks
I
so
got a nice.
much.
I
It's
know.
been a 2-year learning process. I just
Oh,
told
that's what I
my
was going to ask you too.
Yeah,
We're
it
going
took
to
me
talk
2
about that
years.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so it started. Obviously, it takes time to find the images. You
Hmm.
know, um, the 2 trips I went on, I had 8 or 9,000 images from each trip. I think somewhere around there, maybe. ish. Well, this is a trip of a lifetime. I'm like
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
all
man,
the
I would be
shots.
doing the same thing. I mean, like every
I
little
like,
thing.
I probably had like 300 photos of a polar bear. I ended up deleting many of them, but because I'm never probably going to be here again. I would love to go back, but
Yeah.
so it's been 2 years, and that's partially me because I take my time, and I didn't work on it maybe for 3 or 4 months at one point because I'm like, I don't know what to do now, so I'll
Mhm.
just let it sit and figure it out later. Um, but I lost my train of thought.
Oh no, because we were talking about
Oh,
you just putting it together. I mean,
right. So I was telling my husband the other day, yesterday, I think, I said, and because I feel like I always have to justify myself, he's the reason I get to do these things. I left a corporate job and salary, 8 years ago. Um, Obviously wouldn't have done that if we weren't able to,
yeah,
but it works for us, and we're
yeah,
fine,
yeah,
um, we're not independently wealthy or anything either,
yeah,
so there's
yeah,
ways to make things work. And I've
yeah.
always, that's, I'll figure it out. I always make things work. I always have. So anyway, I said to him, I said, I'm not making money on this book, or very, very little, but it's
Mhm.
like, it was a 2-year course in how to make a book and publish a book, you
Yeah.
know, and
Mhm.
people would pay how much money to go to a course like that, so
Mhm.
if you look at it that way, you know,
Yep. That's
it just
great.
becomes it's a huge, huge learning experience.
Yeah, and that it is a huge learning experience. And one thing that we were saying how we make it work is that you follow through. I mean, you follow through and complete it. And I think that's one thing that, Lauri, you do. You follow through and you complete, and you say, I'm going to do this, and you do. And you said, you're going to come on my podcast, and you did.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Is there anything that you want to say to them? I'm going to jump on questions, and I am going to share. Let me share. I want to share your website real quick because as Lauri, you could pick this up at Lauri, you could see Novak.com. It's very easy right there. Go over there, check her stuff out. You should get the book, honestly.
And I'm just so right now, if you order the book right now, it'll go on back order because I
Oh,
took them out of stock so that I have 20 copies to take to the open house with me.
yep.
So, if you order it now, I will make sure that I'll pull one. Like I'll pull one to the side. So I won't be like, no, you can't have one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys should really jump on it for sure. Yeah. So here's because David was asking about your website,
Yep.
and then also that Carolyn was saying, "I'll go with you." Laugh
Yeah,
out.
we've actually talked about going one of the trips. She was looking at one of the trips before. I think I sent her some information at one point on that. You got to go. You just got to do it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me see. Um, okay, let me see if this one is there any platforms that cannot. I think it's the website companies, so people won't clone and copy and theft your, what you do as a photographer. Have you had any dealings with any of that? I guess they're asking about
I
cloning
don't
your.
honestly, I don't spend a lot of time like looking at that kind of stuff because I feel like in this day and age you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
Yep.
it's easier and easier and easier for people to steal content, any kind of content. I used to sign up with Pixie or whatever it is and go see what images were all
Yep.
over wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I never. If you The other part of that though is because I don't pay for a pro subscription or whatever it is, I get like very little. I can submit maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is, things to go after somebody. I've never gotten anything out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of them are in countries that they can't do anything
Mm-hmm.
about anyway. So
Yep. That's what they say.
unfortunately, this is kind of the way of the world. If you don't want your stuff stolen, don't put it out there. I mean,
Yep.
that's the only really thing that I feel like you can do anymore, unless you're
Yeah.
like a big name person who has the lawyers and the funding and whatever to go after places, you
Well,
know?
I even heard I watch on YouTube because I love YouTube, and there's I forget the husband and wife that do all the equipment, and they got some, I don't know, another country took their cover of their book
Oh
and
my
put it
God.
on some other product, and it took, they said the only reason why they sued is just because it was more of the moral thing,
Yes.
because they didn't make any money and they wouldn't take it down, and they just like, I mean, they're millionaires, so obviously they didn't make anything. So yeah, you're right. It's like people are just going to take it. I just tell my clients, if you want your logo on it, it's only for like, say, like if you want to do it on Facebook or something, just to get your name out there if you're just beginning. But I would never, like, for me, I license my work and they get pissed off. They're like, I don't want this logo on there. I can't feel it. I don't.
Right, right.
So it's like, yeah. So let's see. There was something about here. Um, let's see. I choose to make a book that would sell, like Ansel Adams' Landscape is Best, Zone System, thinking about something else in a niche. So this person is thinking about making a book also like you. But I think that what you were saying too, and if I'm saying it wrong, you were saying you got to go for your passion. Maybe Ansel Adams really cool, but I don't know about, like, you got to do from your soul, right?
Right.
Right.
Like
When you
if you really want to do a book and you have a million images or whatever, I mean, go through, what do you have the most of? How many, do you take? I have photos of everything in my archives. I mean, you laugh at some of this stuff I've done over the years. Um, but I get bored very easily, so that's why I'm
Mhm.
not strictly an architecture photographer or strictly this or strictly that, because I can't.
Yeah.
So I would suggest going through your archives, or if there's something that off the top of your head, like, oh my God, I love taking. I made a couple of handmade books this past year. One was called Everyday Shadows. And it's just everyday shadows, the chair in my kitchen table, a fork on a table, it's
Okay,
just things
fun.
like that. But if
Yeah.
those are the things that continually catch your eye, make your book about that, because then your passion for those things is going to come through.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Janice keeps saying about the passion in this book. Well, the passion is, I've always loved winter. I've always loved penguins. I made a penguin who was supposed to be in the book, and I somehow he got left out. I just realized that the other day. I'm like, my penguin didn't make it in the book. So I have a clay penguin on my shelf that I made when I
I
was
remember I
5.
saw that. I think I saw that on Twitter or something. I don't even know.
I
I don't.
usually I have like pictures of him out there
Oh,
somewhere, but
okay.
it's something that I've always loved. I love winter, I love snow, I love mountains, so those things that you're passionate about, you're going to see over and over and over in your work. Choose
Yeah.
that to make a book, whatever
Yeah.
that is, so that the
Perfect.
passion comes through.
Yep. I totally agree. I have to say with Eugenie, thank you, Lauri, for all your inspirations. I feel like I found my sister. I love that.
Yay. No, I love that too,
She is an
because
artist too. She makes beautiful work.
that's what
Also.
I love, that I can inspire people just by being who I am.
Yes, I'm so glad that you are who you are, because it's just it was we've always loved each other's work,
Yeah.
and now I
Yeah.
get to finally have you here, and I want to thank you so much again
Thank you for
for.
asking me. I appreciate you asking.
Oh,
It's another thing, and not to just go off down on another marketing thing, but that's something else that I could have or should have done, is contacted different podcasters or blog people who have blogs on subjects like this, to say, here, I have this. Can I come
yeah,
on your show?
and
But I
yeah,
don't like
do
doing
it.
that.
If you still want to do it, you should
Well,
do it.
if I order another 100 books, I'm going to have to.
Yeah, and then you can donate, to your
Yes.
polar.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else before we say goodbye? I've kept you on. Actually, Lauri, when I sign off on this, let's
Yep.
stay on real quick. But
Okay.
is there anything
Yep.
else you would like to say?
Who, me?
Yeah,
Oh,
you.
oh. thought you were asking them. Sorry. I don't know. I just think that, again, I've always stuck to who I am. And I know for a fact that that also can be a detriment for myself too, because I'm hard-headed that way. But it allows me to stay focused on my work, how and what I do. And that comes through in everything that I do. It could be a social media post, an email that I send. I am going to quote Popeye, but I am what I am. And, I've never really cared if people liked it or not, and
Yes,
if you
perfect.
don't,
Yes.
you're not the right person for me.
Exactly.
You're not my customer then,
Yep.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
but you can't all
Love
be
it.
everybody's customers. So, and good luck, and don't stop trying. Don't let anybody tell you can't either.
Exactly. Love it. Love it.
So
So
thank you.
perfect. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
too,
you guys,
again.
we will look at the chat. Keep chat going. Do the comments down below if you like the podcast. Give it a thumbs up. If you like Lauri, go to her website. More stuff will be down below. And then I will cut this off and put it in actually Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. So thank you all so much
Awesome.
for being with us. And thank you, Lauri.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.